Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Russian ebook before it's gone. Hi, welcome to Introduction to Russian. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Katya. In this series, you'll learn everything you need to know to get started learning Russian.
That's right, and we're here to help guide you through your journey. In this lesson, you'll learn the reasons you should start learning a new language, why you should learn Russian in particular, and how to get started.
Let's begin with the most obvious question. Why learn a new language?
There are countless reasons, but perhaps the biggest one of all is that it could actually change your life. Learning a new language unlocks new pathways that are off limits to you now. There are certain things that you simply cannot do without having the technical or cultural skills that come from learning a new language.
Like working or living in another country.
Knowing another language provides you with greater job opportunities. You have the freedom to move to another country halfway around the world and be able to earn a living, or even better yet, build a career from it, instead of just being stuck in one place. Language allows you to visit or live in places that you may never have even considered going simply because that wasn't a possibility for you. Knowing another language simply gives you more options to choose from.
And learning a new language also helps you to be more open-minded and see the world from a new perspective.
Language and culture go hand in hand. The world is a big place, and by broadening your understanding of other cultures, it allows you to be more empathetic and understanding of the many different ways that people live their lives. With language, you're able to see and experience more, which helps you to grow as a person.
Learning a new language also improves your memory.
Several studies have consistently shown that those who study another language have improved memory as opposed to those who didn't learn another language. Learning another language also keeps your brain healthy by significantly delaying the onset of Alzheimer's and dementia. This difference can be as much as 4 to 5 more years of quality life.
And those are just some of the reasons you should learn another language. The list just goes on and on.
Now you know the benefits of studying another language, but why should you learn Russian in particular?
Everybody knows that Russia is the largest country in the world. But did you also know that Russian is one of the most widely spoken languages in the world too?
Russian isn't only spoken in Russia. It's actually the official language of many other countries like Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and the list just goes on and on.
And unofficially, it's also widely spoken in Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia, and many other Slavic countries. In fact, Russian is part of the larger family of Slavic languages that are all very similar to each other, akin to super languages like Chinese and Spanish. There are around 300 million Russian speakers worldwide.
And its importance as a language can be seen globally, as it's one of the official languages of the United Nations. All meetings and official documents drafted by the United Nations are spoken and written in Russian.
Learning Russian also opens up many other business opportunities, as Russia leads the world in many industries, such as mechanical engineering, refining, shipbuilding, automotive, aerospace, microelectronics, and much, much more.
What about the poetics of the Russian language itself? In the words of the 16th century Emperor of Rome, Charles V, I speak to God in Spanish, to friends in French, to my enemies in German, and to women in Italian.
And to that, the Russian polymath Mikhail Lomonosov famously added that if he'd known Russian, he could speak to all of the former, because Russian has the grandeur of Spanish, the vivacity of French, the strength of German, the gentleness of Italian, and in addition to that, the wealth and brevity of Latin in Greek.
Indeed, Russian is one of the most interesting languages in the world. It's the king of Slavic languages. It's been said by language learners that if you learn this language, you can easily learn any other language in the world, no matter how difficult it may seem. Okay then, we've talked about why you should start learning a language and why you should start learning Russian in particular, but how should they get started, Katya?
Well, it's as simple as learning your first word in Russian and building up from there.
The good news, though, is that you already know some Russian.
Respect, fail, good.
As you can see, Russian is much closer to English than it seems initially, because it has had ties to English and English expressions for some 200 years.
Let's teach you something that you might not know. Здравствуйте. This is a common Russian greeting that roughly translates to hello or how are you? Здравствуйте.
That's a useful phrase. Can you explain a little bit about what these symbols are, though?
Sure. Much like how English uses the Latin script in its writing, Russian uses another type of script called the Cyrillic script. And those symbols are actually letters of the Russian alphabet. And similar to English, one letter usually corresponds to one sound in Russian.
We'll introduce you to the writing system in episode 4 of this series. For now, let's put up some Roman transcription so you can follow along.
Здравствуйте.
Repeat after Katya.
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте.
Russian has a lot of consonant clusters like the ones found in this greeting, but don't let that intimidate you. Pronounce each consonant going from one to the next without adding any extra vowel sounds. Start off slowly and read them in the correct order.
Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте.
We can also abbreviate this phrase to make it more casual.
Здравствуй. Just remove the last syllable te to say hello casually to a friend or relative. Здравствуй. Здравствуй.
Well done! Now you know how to greet someone in Russian. We've covered a lot of things already, so why don't we wrap up the first lesson and recap on what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that studying another language has many benefits, such as providing new job and business opportunities. Russian is spoken by hundreds of millions of people worldwide and is one of the official languages of the United Nations. And to greet someone in Russian, it's
Здравствуйте.
In the next lesson, we're going to demystify Russian pronunciation by taking a look at the sounds of Russian, so be sure to watch the next video. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye.
Hi! Welcome to Introduction to Russian. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Katya.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Russian pronunciation. Russian pronunciation is arguably easier to learn than English. Consider the following English words. The first word is pronounced colonel, not colonel. The second word is pronounced arise. Adding an N, however, doesn't give you arisen, but arisen. The last word is pronounced ate, but adding an H doesn't give you hate. Instead, it becomes height. English is notorious for being a difficult language to learn, and it can be very frustrating for learners due to the fact that its pronunciation rules often don't make a lot of sense.
Russian, on the other hand, can seem like a blessing when compared to English. Дуб, вода, дом. Russian is primarily pronounced as it's spelled. There are some exceptions, but they're governed by more defined rules compared to English. Even loan words, like the greeting you learned in the previous lesson, are largely pronounced as written. Здравствуйте. All you need to learn now then are the sounds of Russian.
There are many vowel and consonant sounds in Russian. Luckily, Russian puts its letters into two main categories of sounds, hard and soft.
There are a total of 10 vowels in Russian, and they're divided equally. There are 5 hard vowels, which are a little similar to English. A, E, U, O, U. And 5 soft vowels. These are vowels that have a netted glide or Y-like quality, making them sound softer. Ya, Ye, I, Yo, You. Please note, though, that the number of vowel sounds do not equal the number of vowel letters. There are actually more vowel sounds than represented by letters.
Similar to vowels, consonant sounds can also be hard or soft.
B, B, V, V, D, D, Z, Z.
Unlike vowels, though, consonants aren't differentiated into separate letters based on their hardness or softness alone. A single consonant letter is used to represent two sounds, one hard
M,
and one soft.
M.
This is because Russian is actually read in blocks. We use the closest vowel which comes after the consonant to indicate whether to pronounce the consonant hard or soft. If the consonant is followed by a hard vowel, then the consonant is also pronounced hard.
Ma, масло.
On the other hand, if the consonant is followed by a soft vowel, then the consonant is also pronounced soft.
Мя, мясо.
The many contrasts between hard and soft consonant and vowels is what gives Russian its distinct gliding sound.
We saw before how a relationship exists between letters and sounds based on their hardness. Voicing is another quality that's important to be aware of when learning Russian pronunciation.
Voicing simply refers to whether or not your vocal cords are vibrating or not vibrating. English has voiced pairs as well. Consider the following letters: P, B, T, D, K, G. Do you notice the relationship between these letters? The letters in each pair are pronounced exactly the same, the only difference being that one requires your vocal cords to vibrate and the other to not vibrate. Sounds that do not require vibration of the vocal cords, like all the ones on the left-hand side, are considered voiceless, while sounds that do require vibration of the vocal cords, like all the ones on the right-hand side, are considered voiced. Consider the following example in Russian. This letter is pronounced
G. But this word here isn't pronounced Bog, but Bog. Notice how the letter G is written, which is a voiced letter, but is actually pronounced as the letter K, a voiceless letter.
So what ended up happening? The final consonant is a voiced consonant, but when the word is being pronounced, the letter is actually read using the voiceless counterpart instead.
This occurs to all words that end in the final consonant in Russian. Final consonants are pronounced voiceless. So despite what's written, always pronounce the final consonant in Russian using the voiceless version. B, zub, z, без. The key to perfecting Russian pronunciation is to master hard and soft pairs and voiced pairs.
Unlike many other languages, Russian pronunciation is heavily affected by sounds that are adjacent to each other, often adopting the sound qualities of the letters that surround them.
Once you understand the concept and the relationship between hard and soft pairs and voiced pairs, Russian pronunciation actually becomes quite logical and easy to learn.
Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, we introduced you to some important concepts for learning Russian pronunciation. You learned that there are hard and soft pairs in Russian, about voiced pairs in Russian, and that letters can adopt these sound qualities. If you're interested in learning more about Russian pronunciation, check out the entire course we created named The Ultimate Guide to Russian Pronunciation. In that course, we cover and break down every single sound in the Russian language, showing you mouth and tongue positioning and giving you tips to help you perfect your Russian pronunciation. In the next lesson, we'll introduce you to the basics of Russian grammar, where you'll learn about Russian word order and how to build basic phrases in Russian. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye!
Hi! Welcome to Introduction to Russian. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Katya.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Russian grammar. Word order refers to the order in which words are structured to form a sentence in a given language. Consider the English sentence, I ate an apple. But first, let's remove the article an here for simplicity, so we're just left with I ate apple. The basic word order for English is subject, verb, object, or SVO for short. If we break down the English sentence, I ate apple, we can see that the subject I is presented first, followed by the verb ate, and then finally the object apple is positioned last. This is the basic word order for sentences in English.
Russian uses the same word order as English, SVO. Парень купил Собаку. Парень. The subject, a guy, goes first. Купил, the verb bought, goes second. And собаку, the object dog, goes last. This means that you can create any basic sentence in Russian simply by exchanging the English words for Russian words using a dictionary and still be understood. Isn't that easy?
In fact, Russian word order is much more flexible than English. Compare the following examples. Cats eat mice. If we were to swap the subject with the object, we'd get mice eat cats. As you can see, the SVO word order in English is fixed. Changing the word order changes the meaning of the sentence completely.
Russian, on the other hand, is much more flexible. Starting with the SVO word order, кошки едят мышей. We can swap the subject with the object like we did for English, and yet, мышей едят кошки. The meaning of the sentence remains the same. In fact, we could swap the sentence any which way and it still wouldn't change the core meaning of the sentence.
Unlike English, Russian doesn't rely on the word order of the sentence to signify if a word is the subject or an object because it uses special word endings that act as markers to indicate the role of the word in the sentence.
In this example, we use the word ending "ей" in мышей to indicate that mice is the object of the sentence. And so we can move it around anywhere in the sentence and it still be the object.
Now you know how to create basic sentences in Russian, but how do you make a sentence negative?
Negation in Russian is easy. Just add "не", meaning no, before the verb. Он спит. Он не спит. Я знаю. Я не знаю. Unlike English, Russian permits double negatives. So in English, you would say nothing happened. But in Russian, we would say nothing didn't happen. Ничего не произошло.
You can form many basic negative sentences in Russian by placing no before the verb. Turning a sentence into a question in Russian is even easier than turning it into a negative sentence.
Simply raise your pitch at the end of the question as you would in English.
Unlike English, though, you do not need to rearrange the order of any words. Simply say the sentence and raise the pitch at the end.
Ты понимаешь? Ты понимаешь?
To ask more than yes or no questions, you'll need to learn question words. Some common question words are
Что? Как? Кто? Какой? Когда?
We'll cover more of this in future lessons on Russian grammar. Well done! Let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that Russian sentences can be formed using an SVO word order, just like English. Additionally, Russian uses markers to indicate the role of a word in a sentence, which allows the word order to be much more flexible. You make a negative sentence by adding no before the verb. And to create basic questions in Russian, simply add a question mark and raise your pitch at the end of a sentence. We've covered only the absolute basics of Russian grammar. If you're interested in learning more, check out our Russian in 3 Minutes video series. In that course, we teach you useful phrases while covering the fundamentals of Russian grammar, and each lesson is only 3 minutes long. In the next lesson, we'll introduce you to the basics of Russian writing. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye!
Hi! Welcome to Introduction to Russian. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Katya.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Russian writing. Russian is written using letters from the Cyrillic script, one of the most widely used writing systems in the world.
The Russian alphabet consists of 33 letters. These are 10 vowels. Of these, 5 are hard vowels and 5 are soft vowels. There are 21 consonants and 2 special letters which aid in designating hardness and softness. These letters do not produce sounds on their own. They merely augment the sound of a preceding letter.
Like English, Russian has upper and lowercase letters. Most letters look identical to each other, and the only difference is their size.
You can learn about each individual letter and get some insights into each letter and how to properly write it in our Learn Russian Writing video series. In that series, Svetlana breaks the alphabet down in the easiest way for you to learn. We'll link to this series at the end of the video.
Russian is written from left to right, just like English. Also similar to English, Russian is written in cursive letters when handwritten. It's called rapid or running script in Russian because the links between cursive letters significantly increase the writing speed.
Unfortunately, this increase in speed and convenience often results in the omission of the stress marks on the letter yo. It's continuously being omitted in modern-day Russian, making it look like the letter ye instead. This is convenient for those who are fluent in Russian, because words can still be understood based on context, but this can be problematic for new learners of Russian.
Every sentence begins with a capital letter in Russian.
Сегодня хорошая погода.
Proper nouns also begin with a capital letter.
Ломоносов, Москва, Днестр.
Proper names are also capitalized, but only on the first letter.
Индийское море, Багамские острова.
If all words in a proper name are proper nouns themselves, then they'll all be capitalized.
Северная Америка.
Unlike English, the pronoun for you is capitalized in Russian. It's done so as a sign of respect.
Вы не подскажете?
The days of the week are not capitalized in Russian.
Среда,
Neither are months, nationalities, languages, nor the pronoun for I in Russian.
август, эстонец, испанский язык. Я один.
Okay, let's wrap up this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that Russian uses the Cyrillic alphabet, which consists of 33 letters. You learned that Russian has upper and lowercase letters, and that it's written from left to right. You also learned a few capitalization rules in this lesson. We've covered only a few basic things about Russian writing.
Remember, you can check out our Learn Russian Writing video series as well. In that course, Svetlana breaks down the Russian alphabet, teaching you insightful things about each letter and how to write it.
In the next lesson, you'll be entering Russian boot camp, where you'll learn useful beginner phrases to get you speaking Russian right away. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye!
Hi! Welcome to Introduction to Russian. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Katya.
In this lesson, we'll focus on teaching you the most useful Russian words and phrases for absolute beginners.
Make sure you're repeating the words out loud after I say the examples.
Are you ready? Let's get started. Do you remember how to greet someone in Russian?
We taught you this phrase in the very first lesson of the series. Can you recall what it was? Здравствуйте.
It's a common greeting that's used not only in Russia, but many Slavic countries.
Здравствуйте.
Now you try.
Здравствуйте.
To greet a friend more casually, you can say,
Привет. Привет.
try it.
Привет.
To greet someone more specifically, you can say,
Доброе утро, which means good morning. Доброе утро. Добрый день, meaning good day. Добрый день. Добрый вечер, meaning good evening. Добрый вечер.
One of the most useful phrases to learn is one that expresses gratitude. Let's learn how to say thank you in Russian.
Спасибо. Спасибо.
Try it.
Спасибо. This expression is derived from two words. Спаси, meaning save, and Bog, meaning God. It literally means save God, but this expression no longer has any religious connotations and is used to simply express gratitude. Спасибо.
Repeat it one more time.
Спасибо.
The next phrase we'll teach you is perhaps the second most useful phrase of all. It's to apologize or excuse yourself. If you are apologetic for disturbing someone to make a request, you can say
Извините, meaning sorry, or Извините, пожалуйста, meaning excuse me, please. Извините.
Try it.
Извините. Извините, пожалуйста. Извините, пожалуйста.
If you want to apologize for something you've done, such as stepping on someone's toes or bumping into someone, you can excuse yourself by saying
Простите, meaning forgive me, or прошу прощения, meaning I'm sorry. Простите.
Try it.
Простите. Простите. Прошу прощения. Прошу прощения.
In this final lesson, you learned how to greet someone, express gratitude, how to excuse yourself, and to apologize. And in this series, we introduced you to the basics of Russian pronunciation, grammar, writing, and more. Let's conclude with some parting advice from Katya, and listen to some of her tips on how to learn Russian from a native Russian perspective.
The sounds and pronunciation of a new language are always a huge stumbling block for new learners. I suggest getting familiar and practicing these sounds aloud from the very beginning so that you get used to Russian pronunciation. The key is to repeat them aloud. It's not enough to just sit idly expecting to improve when it comes to pronunciation. Check out our ultimate guide to Russian pronunciation to start perfecting your Russian as soon as possible. Another tip I recommend is to immerse yourself in Russian pop culture. Russians are funny people, and there are thousands and thousands of entertaining videos for you to watch online. Be entertained while familiarizing yourself with Russian mannerism, speech patterns, and intonation. Watching contemporary Russian videos, like our videos here at RussianPod101.com, will ensure that you're learning real, everyday Russian in the fastest and most effective way.
You've reached the end of this Introduction to Russian course, but it's only the beginning of your journey to Russian fluency. Where do you go from here? Try our Ultimate Guide to Russian Pronunciation series to start familiarizing yourself with Russian sounds and perfect your Russian pronunciation. Or check out any of our other video series. We have many different categories for you to choose from. Good luck as you continue learning Russian, and I'll see you in another video. Bye!
Bye!
Welcome to RussianPod101.com's Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest and the most fun way to learn Russian. Привет, меня зовут Светлана. Очень приятно. Hi, I'm Svetlana. Nice to meet you. In this series, we're going to learn basic Russian expressions. It's super easy and it takes only 3 minutes. In this lesson, you are going to learn how to introduce yourself in Russian. There are a few ways to do so, depending on how formal you want to be. Let's first take a look at an informal way to introduce yourself in Russian. It's very short and simple. Привет, меня зовут Светлана. Очень приятно. Hi, I'm Svetlana. Nice to meet you. Привет, меня зовут Светлана. Очень приятно. Start with the greeting «Привет». Then you introduce yourself by saying «Меня зовут» and then your name «Меня зовут Светлана». Finally say «Nice to meet you». The simplified and very casual phrase for it is «Очень приятно». The whole phrase will be «Привет, меня зовут Светлана. Очень приятно». Now let's take a look at more formal version for greeting and self-introduction. It's a bit longer than the previous one. You ready? Here we go. Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Светлана. Приятно познакомиться. Hello, my name is Svetlana. It's a pleasure to meet you. Здравствуйте. Меня зовут Светлана. Приятно познакомиться. What has changed from the previous introduction? Let's take a closer look at these together. First, we changed the greeting word «привет» to «здравствуйте». It's very formal and official greeting which can be used any time of the day, morning, afternoon, evening, or even at night. Luckily, the phrase you use to introduce your name stays the same. Меня зовут Светлана. Next, after giving your name, you say «приятно познакомиться». It's more formal, but can be used in informal greeting as well. It literally means it's a pleasure to meet you. Once more, the formal way to introduce yourself is «Здравствуйте, меня зовут Светлана. Приятно познакомиться». In the sentence «Меня зовут Светлана», «меня» is myself, and «зовут» is to be called. So the literal translation is I'm called Svetlana. Unlike English, where I would say my name is Svetlana, in Russian we basically say somebody calls me Svetlana. Interesting, huh? Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. It's common to shake hands both when you greet somebody and leave them in Russia. Handshaking is more common for men, but women also practice it a lot lately. And don't forget direct eye contact. It's very important in Russia. Good friends usually give hugs and kiss each other on the cheeks 3 times. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Do you know how to say thank you in Russian? You learn how to say this and many other words in next lesson. Пока-пока! До скорых встреч! See you soon! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.coms. Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned how to introduce ourselves in Russian. Today we are going to learn how to use good manners as we thank people. Готовы? Are you ready? Поехали! Then let's start. There are several ways to thank people. Let's start with the most common phrase «спасибо». Спасибо. Спасибо means thank you. To say thank you very much, you just need to add большое. Большое спасибо. Большое спасибо. Большое means big. In context, большое спасибо literally means big thanks. So when someone thanks you, how should you answer? There are several ways to respond to this phrase. One which is fairly close in translation to the English phrase "you're welcome" is «пожалуйста». It's very common in Russia, but we also use another phrase quite often. «Не за что», which means not at all. The word «пожалуйста» means something like please in English. Пожалуйста. In English, it sounds a little bit strange to say please when somebody thanks you, right? But by using this word, you're indicating that you are pleased to be helpful. Не за что means more or less the same thing as пожалуйста, but offers a little more courtesy. Say не за что. Не за что. One which is fairly close in translation to the English phrase "you're welcome" is пожалуйста. It's very common in Russia, but we also use another phrase quite often, не за что, which means not at all. Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. When saying thank you in Russia, body language is very important. Спасибо is the universal word and can be used in both formal and informal cases. You can make it sound more formal just by changing your intonation, like this. Спасибо. Friends usually act more openly and even slap each other on the shoulder. In any case, it's very important that your thanks be accompanied with smile and again, direct eye contact. Спасибо. Good job! That's it for this lesson. By the way, do you know what «до свидания» means? In our next lesson, you'll learn these and other greetings in Russian. Всем спасибо, пока-пока! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.com's Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned how to express gratitude with спасибо. In this lesson, we'll learn some of the most common greetings you'll use in Russian. Готовы? Are you ready? Поехали! Let's start. The most used informal greeting is привет. Привет. Привет means hi or hello. We use this greeting when we meet friends, cousins, or close relatives. Please keep in mind that it's a very informal greeting. If you're not close to someone or he or she is older than you, you should not use this word. Here's a more formal way to greet people. Здравствуйте. Здравствуйте. This is a very formal greeting that can be used any time of the day. As a variation, здравствуй can also be used. This is still a little casual, but much more formal than привет. Здравствуйте is actually a variation of здраво желаю, meaning I wish you health. So здравствуйте literally means I wish you to be healthy.
Здравствуй.
Russian also has equivalents to the English good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. They are доброе утро, добрый день, добрый вечер. They are similar to здравствуйте in politeness and formality. However, remember to use them at the proper time depending on whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening. Доброе утро, which means good morning, is usually used before 12 p.m. Доброе утро. The word добрый means kind. Russians don't say good morning, they say kind morning. The word утро means morning. So literally this phrase means kind morning to you. Very sweet. Добрый день can either mean good afternoon or good day. Since the word здравствуйте can be used at any time of the day, we will hear it more than добрый день. But it's still a phrase you should learn. Добрый день. The final greeting is добрый вечер, and we usually use it after 6 p.m. The word вечер literally means evening. Kind evening to you. Добрый вечер. Very easy, right? The usual way to say goodbye in almost any situation is до свидания, which literally means till the next meeting. До свидания. If you're on casual terms with somebody, you may also use пока, which means bye or see you later. Пока. The phrase you use when leaving someone in the evening or just before bed is спокойной ночи. This phrase works both for formal and informal situations. Спокойной ночи. You can now greet people in many different ways in Russia. Congratulations! Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. As I mentioned in our first lesson, Russians commonly greet each other by shaking hands or slightly nodding the head. What I want to add to this is that Russians are very superstitious people, so we never shake hands over the threshold between rooms. It's considered to be unlucky. So always go into the room first before shaking hands. Women usually kiss each other on the cheek 3 times, starting with the left cheek. Men hug and pat each other's backs. In the next lesson, we'll learn the meaning of the phrase «Извините, вы говорите по-английски?» Do you already know it? I'll be waiting to tell you about it in our next «Русский язык за 3 минуты» lesson. Пока-пока. See you. Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.com's Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned the most common forms of greetings in Russian. Do you remember them? In this lesson, we are going to learn a very useful phrase. Do you speak English? If you find yourself in a situation when you need assistance in English, this phrase can be a lifesaver. And because you're asking it in Russian, you can be sure that everyone will understand what you're saying, even if the answer is no. Here's the informal way to say it. Ты говоришь по-английски? Ты говоришь по-английски? In Russian, verbs change depending on the pronoun that is used. The pronoun ты is the singular you in English. It is a very informal way to address people. Don't use it with complete strangers, especially if the person is older than you. I don't recommend that you use it during formal gatherings either, such as business meetings, conferences, and so on. The verb говоришь means speak in English. As I already mentioned, verbs usually change in Russian, according to the pronoun and time. The original form for the verb говоришь is говорить. To learn how to properly conjugate Russian verbs like говорить, please take a look at our Absolute Beginner series on RussianPod101.com. You can find very detailed grammar lessons and resources there. To make this sentence a question, we don't need to change the word order or anything like that. All we need is to change our intonation. You speak English is Ты говоришь по-английски. But do you speak English is Ты говоришь по-английски? A more polite way to ask this question in Russian is to use the pronoun вы, which is translated in English as the plural you. Remember, as we change the pronoun, we also need to conjugate the verb to match it. Говорить is conjugated to говорите. So the whole phrase in Russian will be Вы говорите по-английски? Вы говорите по-английски? The phrase по-английски stays the same. And you probably have already understood the meaning, right? It means in English. Very easy. By adding извините, excuse me, you make the sentence even more polite. Извините, вы говорите по-английски? Извините, вы говорите по-английски? The responses you might receive could be one of these three. Да, yes. Да. Немного, a little. Немного. Нет, no. Нет. The full version for the negative sentence will be Нет, я не говорю по-английски. Since this is a negation, we need to add the particle не before the verb говорю. Notice also that the verb говорите changed. It changed to говорю because we used the pronoun I here. Я in Russian. Thus the phrase I do not speak English is Я не говорю по-английски. Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. For those of you who are not native English speakers, don't worry. You can of course use this question with any language you need. Many other European and Asian languages are also popular in Russia. So maybe you will get lucky. Just substitute по-английски with по-немецки for German, по-испански for Spanish, по-китайски for Chinese, по-японски for Japanese. Great! In this lesson we mentioned the expression извините. But did you know that this can also be used as an apology? In the next lesson we'll learn this and other ways to apologize in Russian. It's never too late to show you good manners towards Russian people. I'll see you in our next русский язык за 3 минуты lesson. Пока-пока! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.com. Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson we learned the phrase «Извините, вы говорите по-английски?» Excuse me, do you speak English? We mentioned the word «извините», which means excuse me in Russian. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use извините and other words when apologizing in Russian. We usually use извините when we want to draw somebody's attention. Perhaps you want to order something in the restaurant or simply ask the time. For example, извините, который час? Excuse me, what time is it? The other meaning of извините is to say I'm sorry for something you've done or haven't done. The word извините derives from the word вина, which means guilt in English. You use it when you feel guilty for bothering somebody or causing some problem. The word извините is used in its formal polite form. The informal version for it is извини. It can also be used in two ways as mentioned, but is mostly used in the sense of regret and apology. Извини refers to the informal pronoun you in its singular form. In other words, you would use it when speaking to a person you would address with the pronoun ты. Another informal word for an apology is прости, which has almost the same meaning as извини, but with a slightly higher level of regret. It derives from the verb прощать, which means forgive. So literally this word is translated as forgive me. So the formal way to say forgive me in Russian would be простите or прошу прощения. The meaning of both phrases is almost the same. Простите is an imperative verb which literally means forgive me. Прошу прощения means I am asking you to forgive me. This phrase is a bit more polite than простите. As you might have guessed, the word прошу means I ask. You can add the word пожалуйста, please, to your apology to make it even more polite and sincere. Простите, пожалуйста. Извините, пожалуйста. Excuse me, please. Okay, great. Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. If you accidentally bump somebody, any of the phrases mentioned in this lesson would be fine for an apology. Just don't say nothing or ignore the other person, because you might get a very angry reaction and be yelled at in front of everybody. Russians can be very short-tempered and emotional, but will not usually harbor resentment if you admit your mistake. It is always easier to say a simple word of apology straight away rather than try to cool an angry Russian down. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Can you count in Russian? In the next lesson, we'll learn the numbers from 1 to 10. I'll be waiting for you in our next Русский язык за 3 минуты lesson. Пока-пока! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.coms. Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned some words used when apologizing in Russian, including извините and простите. In this lesson, we are going to learn numbers in Russian. Yes, numbers, числа, from 1 to 10. And you're going to learn them in only 3 minutes. 3 минуты. Are you ready? Let's start. 1. 1. 2. 2. 3. 3. 4. 4. 5. 5. 6. 6. 7. 7. 8. 8. 9. 9. 10. 10. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. Great job! What comes before 1? Do you know? It is 0. Ноль. Ноль. You don't have any more excuses. Now you can give friends your cell phone number in Russian. Let's try together. We'll use the phrase «мой номер телефона», which means my telephone number is. Мой номер телефона. Мой номер телефона 8 9 2 4 5 7 1 3 6 10. Can you read it by yourself? 8 9 2 4 5 7 1 3 6 10. Perfect! Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. Numbers are used everywhere. Usually when Russians say phone numbers, they combine the single numbers into tens and hundreds. But if it's a short number that contains less than 6 numerals, it's usually pronounced as the separate digits. Learn your numbers well, so you can be ready for real-life situations. Do you know the Russian word for 100? It's very simple and we'll learn it very soon. In the meantime, your job is to practice the numbers we studied in this lesson, from 1 to 10. Пока-пока! До скорого! See you soon! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.coms. Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned the numbers from 1 to 10. Do you remember them? I'll remind you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now let's continue from 11. 11. 11. 12. 12. 13. 13. 14. 14. 15. 15. 16. 16. 17. 17. 18. 18. 19. 19. And finally we have 20. 20. Okay, now repeat after me. I'll say the numbers and give you time to repeat each one. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. 19. 20. These numbers may seem harder to remember and pronounce than those in the previous lesson, but as you have probably noticed, the endings are the same. Natsit. The suffix tsat is the modified word for 10. 10. Tsat. Counting from 15 till 19, you simply eliminate the last letter from the original word and add natsit. In the case of 14, you eliminate the letter ye. Let's not stop at 20. Let's learn how to count up to 100. First, I'll give you the tens. 30. 30. 40. 40. 50. 50. 60. 60. 70. 70. 80, 80, 90, 90, 100, 100. Remember I told you that the suffix "zat" means 10? Well, we have another modification for 10. It is десят. It is almost the same as the original word for 10, 10. In most cases, you simply add the number in front of it to multiply it by 10. 8, 8, plus десят, 10, is 80, 80. Easy! The word for 100 is also super easy. It's 100. I don't think you'll have any problems with this one. The last thing to learn today is how to form compound numbers above 20. Just take the tens and simply add the numbers you learned in the previous lesson. Let's try it out. How would you say 56 in Russian? Let's take it step by step. 50 is 50, and then add 6, 6, 56. It's done. Very easy, right? Let's make another number. For instance, 23. Take 20, 20, and add 3, 3. So we get 23. See? After only 2 lessons, you are now able to count to 100 in Russian. In the next lesson, we are going to put your number knowledge to use. Do you think you can go shopping in Russia now? If not, I'll be waiting for you in our next «Русский язык за 3 минуты» lesson. Пока-пока! До скорого! Привет всем! С вами Светлана. Hi everybody, I'm Svetlana. Welcome to RussianPod101.coms. Русский язык за 3 минуты. The fastest, easiest, and the most fun way to learn Russian. In the last lesson, we learned how to count in Russian. I hope you spent some time practicing the numbers, because they will come in handy today. Now we are going to learn how to go shopping in Russia. So you see something you like, and you want to ask the shop assistant how much it is. The first thing to say is «Извините». Do you remember the meaning? Right. Excuse me. Извините, сколько это стоит? Извините, сколько это стоит? Let's break it down to work out the meaning of these new words. Сколько means how much or how many. As you can see, it can be used both with countable nouns like people and uncountable nouns like time. The next word is это, which means this or that. And the last one is стоит, cost. If you want to be more specific when asking how much is this and refer to a certain type of object, you just need to drop the word это and place the object after the verb стоит. For example, сколько стоит хлеб? How much is the bread? Or, сколько стоит мороженое? How much is the ice cream? But remember that Russian verbs change according to the noun. In this case, we have to be careful about using the nouns in plural and singular forms. For example, if we use the noun candies, which is plural, the verb will change. Извините, сколько стоят конфеты? Excuse me, how much are the candies? Извините, сколько стоят конфеты? As you might already know, the national currency in Russia is rubles, рубль, or рубли in the plural. So now let's hear the shop assistant's answer. He or she could answer by saying хлеб стоит 20 рублей, мороженое стоит 15 рублей, or конфеты стоят 50 рублей. Here comes our numbers. I'm sure you remember them and can easily understand the answer. Great job! Now it's time for Svetlana's tips. The prices in big shopping malls and department stores are mostly fixed. These shops may have some seasonal discounts or campaigns. But the prices in Russian markets, рынок or bazar, are very flexible. They really depend on your speaking and bargaining skills. People at these places are generally very open and friendly, and usually more than happy to find the most appropriate price to please both sides. He or she might even invite you in to have a drink. But always be aware of pickpockets and thieves. There are a lot of them in Russian markets. Do you know how to use Russian currency? We're going to learn how to do this and much more in the next lesson. I will see you soon in our next русский язык за 3 минуты lesson. Пока-пока!
Hi everybody, my name is Katya. Welcome to the 2000 Core Russian Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is незначительный, insignificant, незначительный. Незначительный. Insignificant. Незначительное количество. Insignificant amount. Незначительное количество. Известный. Famous. Известный. Известный. Famous. Известный актер. Famous actor. Известный актер. Чихать. Sneeze. Чихать. Чихать. Sneeze. Женщина чихает. The woman is sneezing. Женщина чихает. Повседневный. Casual. Повседневный. Повседневный. Casual. Повседневная одежда. Casual clothing. Повседневная одежда. Гитара. Guitar. Гитара. Гитара. Guitar. Шестиструнная гитара. Six-string guitar. Шестиструнная гитара. Дышать. Breathe. Дышать. Дышать. Breathe. Глубоко дышать. Breathe deeply. Глубоко дышать. Плевать. Spit. Плевать. Плевать. Spit. Не плевать. No spitting. Не плевать. Стоматолог. Dentist. Стоматолог. Стоматолог. Dentist. Сходить к стоматологу. See a dentist. Сходить к стоматологу. Кариозная полость. Cavity. Кариозная полость. Кариозная полость. Cavity. Глубокая кариозная полость. Deep cavity. глубокая кариозная полость. Астма. Asthma. Астма. Астма. Asthma. Ингалятор от астмы. Asthma inhaler. Ингалятор от астмы. Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. First, you will hear a word or phrase in English. Respond in Russian, then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say insignificant? Незначительный. Незначительный. And how to say famous? Известный. Известный. What about sneeze? Чихать. Чихать. Do you remember how to say casual? Повседневный. Повседневный. Let's try guitar. Гитара. Гитара. What about breathe? Дышать. Дышать. Now, let's see if you remember how to say spit. Плевать. Плевать. Another one. What about dentist? Стоматолог. Стоматолог. Do you remember how to say cavity? Кариозная полость. Кариозная полость. And finally, do you remember how to say asthma? Asthma. Asthma. Well done! See you next time! До свидания! Hi everybody! My name is Katya. Welcome to the 2000 Core Russian Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is аллергия. Allergy. Аллергия. Аллергия. Allergy. Аллергия на пыльцу. Allergy to pollen. Аллергия на пыльцу. Посадочный талон. Boarding pass. Посадочный талон. Посадочный талон. Boarding pass. Посадочный талон, пожалуйста. Boarding pass, please. Посадочный талон, пожалуйста. Образование. Education. Образование. Образование. Education. Образование и подготовка. Education and training. Образование и подготовка. Английский язык. English. Английский язык. Английский язык. English. Мистер Судзуки преподает английский язык. Mr. Suzuki teaches English. Мистер Сузуки преподает английский язык. Право. Law. Право. Право. Law. Изучать право. Study law. Изучать право. Флейта. Flute. Флейта. Флейта. Flute. Серебряная флейта. Silver flute. Серебряная флейта. Отдел информационных технологий. IT Department. Отдел информационных технологий. Отдел информационных технологий. IT Department. Позвоните в отдел информационных технологий. Call the IT Department. Позвоните в отдел информационных технологий. Деловая поездка. Business trip. Деловая поездка. Деловая поездка. Business trip. Отправиться в деловую поездку. Go on a business trip. Отправиться в деловую поездку. Маркетинг. 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 Отдел маркетинга. Marketing Department. Отдел маркетинга. Популярный. Popular. Популярный. Популярный. Popular. Популярный человек. Popular man. Популярный человек. Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. First, you will hear a word or phrase in English. Respond in Russian, then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say allergy? Аллергия. Аллергия. And how to say boarding pass? Посадочный талон. Посадочный талон. What about education? Образование. Образование. Do you remember how to say English? Английский язык. Английский язык. Let's try law. Право. Право. What about flute? Флейта. Флейта. Now, let's see if you remember how to say IT department. Отдел информационных технологий. Отдел информационных технологий. Another one. What about business trip? Деловая поездка. Деловая поездка. Do you remember how to say marketing? Маркетинг. Маркетинг. And finally, do you remember how to say popular? Популярный. Популярный. Well done! See you next time! До свидания! Hi everybody! My name is Katya. Welcome to the 2000 Core Russian Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is бухгалтерский учет. Accounting. Бухгалтерский учет. Бухгалтерский учет. Accounting. Вести бухгалтерский учет. Keep accounting records. Вести бухгалтерский учет. Премия. Bonus. Премия. Премия. Bonus. Годовая премия. Annual bonus. Годовая премия. Легкий. Light. Легкий. Легкий. Light. Легкое перышко. Light feather. Легкое перышко. Тромбон. Trombone. Тромбон. Тромбон. Trombone. Медный тромбон. Brass trombone. Медный тромбон. Отправление. Departure. Отправление. Отправление. Departure. Дата отправления. Departure date. Дата отправления. Прибытие. Arrival. Прибытие. Прибытие. Arrival. Время прибытия. Time of arrival. Время прибытия. Скрипка. Violin. Скрипка. Скрипка. Violin. Играть на скрипке. Play the violin. Играть на скрипке. Наука о Земле. Earth science. Наука о Земле. Наука о Земле. Earth science. Исследования в области наук о Земле. Earth science research. Исследования в области наук о Земле. Наука. Science. Наука. Наука. Science. Изучение науки. Study of science. Изучение науки. Рецепт. Prescription. Рецепт. Рецепт. Prescription. Отпускать лекарства по рецепту. Fill a prescription. Отпускать лекарства по рецепту. Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. First, you will hear a word or phrase in English. Respond in Russian, then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say accounting? Бухгалтерский учет. Бухгалтерский учет. And how to say bonus. Премия. Премия. What about light? Легкий. Легкий. Do you remember how to say trombone? Тромбон. Тромбон. Let's try departure. Отправление. Отправление. What about arrival? Прибытие. Прибытие. Now, let's see if you remember how to say violin. Скрипка. Скрипка. Another one. What about earth science? Наука о Земле. Наука о Земле. Do you remember how to say science? Наука. Наука. And finally, do you remember how to say prescription? Рецепт. Рецепт. Well done! See you next time! До свидания! Hi everybody! My name is Katya. Welcome to the 2000 Core Russian Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is багаж. Luggage. Багаж. Багаж. Luggage. Путешествовать с багажом. Travel with luggage. Путешествовать с багажом. Бинт. Bandage. Бинт. Бинт. Bandage. Обмотать бинтом. Wrap with bandage. Обмотать бинтом. Пациент. Patient. Пациент. Пациент. Patient. Больной пациент. Sick patient. Больной пациент. Отдел. Department. Отдел. Отдел. Department. Начальник отдела. Department manager. Начальник отдела. Бухгалтер. Accountant. Бухгалтер. Бухгалтер. Accountant. Сертифицированный бухгалтер. Licensed accountant. Сертифицированный бухгалтер. Юрист. Lawyer. Юрист. Юрист. Lawyer. Юрист компании. Company lawyer. Юрист компании. Зарплата. Wage. Зарплата. Зарплата. Wage. Минимальная зарплата. Minimum wage. Минимальная зарплата. Пианино. Piano. Пианино. Пианино. Piano. Играть на пианино. Play the piano. Играть на пианино. Номер рейса. Flight number. Номер рейса. Номер рейса. Flight number. Номер рейса 345. Flight number 345. Номер рейса 345. Сельское хозяйство. Agriculture. Сельское хозяйство. Сельское хозяйство. Agriculture. Сельское хозяйство является важной отраслью каждой страны. Agriculture is an important industry in every country. Сельское хозяйство является важной отраслью каждой страны. Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. First, you will hear a word or phrase in English. Respond in Russian, then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say luggage? Багаж. Багаж. And how to say bandage? Бинт. Бинт. What about patient? Пациент. Пациент. Do you remember how to say department? Отдел. Отдел. Let's try accountant. Бухгалтер. Бухгалтер. What about lawyer? Юрист. Юрист. Now, let's see if you remember how to say wage. Зарплата. Зарплата. Another one. What about piano? Пианино. Пианино. Do you remember how to say flight number? Номер рейса. Номер рейса. And finally, do you remember how to say agriculture? Сельское хозяйство. Сельское хозяйство. Well done! See you next time! До свидания! Hi everybody! My name is Katya. Welcome to the 2000 Core Russian Words and Phrases video series. Each lesson will help you learn new words, practice, and review what you've learned. Okay, let's get started. First is инфекция. Infection. Инфекция. Инфекция. Infection. Кожная инфекция. Skin infection. Кожная инфекция. Грипп. Flu. Грипп. Грипп. Flu. Сезон гриппа. Flu season. Сезон гриппа. Труба. Trumpet. Труба. Труба. Trumpet. Духовая труба. Brass trumpet. Духовая труба. Выход на посадку. Departure gate. Выход на посадку. Выход на посадку. Departure gate. Выход на посадку 43. Departure gate 43. Выход на посадку 43. Социология. Sociology. Социология. Социология. Sociology. Изучение социологии. Study of sociology. Изучение социологии. Steward. Flight attendant. Steward. Steward. Flight attendant. Молодой стюард. Young flight attendant. Молодой стюард. Кресло. Seat. Кресло. Кресло. Seat. Кресло самолета. Airplane seat. Кресло самолета. Медицина. Medicine. Медицина. Медицина. Medicine. Область медицины. Field of medicine. Область медицины. Эконом-класс. Economy class. Эконом-класс. Эконом-класс. Economy class. Билеты в эконом-класс. Economy class tickets. Билеты в эконом-класс. Рейс. Flight. Рейс. Рейс. Flight. Посадочный талон на рейс. Boarding pass for the flight. Посадочный талон на рейс. Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. First, you will hear a word or phrase in English. Respond in Russian, then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say infection? Инфекция. Инфекция. And how to say flu? Грипп. Грипп. What about trumpet? Труба. Труба. Do you remember how to say departure gate? Выход на посадку. Выход на посадку. Let's try sociology. Социология. Социология. What about flight attendant? Steward. Steward. Now, let's see if you remember how to say seat. Кресло. Кресло. Another one. What about medicine? Медицина. Медицина. Do you remember how to say economy class? Эконом class. Эконом class. And finally, do you remember how to say flight? Рейс. Рейс. Well done! See you next time! До свидания!
Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Russian ebook before it's gone.